by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Sarianides. And as always, I am joined by my partner, Kevin Stone. Kevin, how are you on this rainy Monday night? Did you survive the nor'easter?
I love this weather, so yes, I did.
I knew you were going to say that. I literally thought that 5 minutes ago. I'm like, he's going to give you the fraudulent response that he likes this weather.
See,
Stop. Just stop. Nobody
it's
likes
not
this
though.
weather. Stop
Look,
pretending like you do.
see, we've been over this. I don't love the winter. I love the fall, rain, anything. I'm a big rainy day guy, so I know it's not
Oh,
surprising.
really? What a surprise. You
I know,
being
shocking,
gloomy? I would have
shocking.
never thought that.
But I'm good. It's nice to see the Bills losing. How are you?
Well, I mean, I was doing okay until Bijan Robinson ripped off an 81-yard touchdown run, which effectively ended any hopes I had of winning my fantasy football matchup this week because I was going up against him. So that's going to drop me, Mr. Know-It-All, Dr. Football, to 1-5 on the season. So there you go. It just goes to show you that you can cover football, you can know football, but fantasy football is a crapshoot, and nothing's guaranteed. Before we get started here, I do want to remind you that we are brought to you by Mortgage Right. If you're looking to sell your home, purchase your first home, or refinance, well, if you're going to sell your home, you better have another one that you need to move into. That's where Herb would come in. Give our good friend Herb Devine a call, 781-254-2846. You can also shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. He and his team are available anytime, including nights and weekends. And I can't stress this enough. Gone are the days where you only bought a house in the spring and the summer. The real estate market is year-round now. You need experience on your side again. Give Herb Devine a call, 781-254-2846. Or you can shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. And I would get on it because inventory's decent right now. There is some stuff out there on the market. And again, if you're looking to enter the market, you do need experience on your side. Herb is that experienced individual who can help you in what can be a challenging process, especially if you're a first-time home buyer. All right, Stone, Patriots improved to 4-2 after their thrilling 25-19 win over the New Orleans Saints yesterday. The Patriots, of course, win their fourth game this season, matching their win total from each of the past two seasons. Lions and I dissected it yesterday. We don't really have to get into the game again. Thoughts on the game? Was it too close for comfort? Did it play out like you thought it would?
So, scoreboard would tell you that it was a little too close for comfort, and I hate to bring it up right away, if you're not dealing with the referees yesterday, I think they win that game by 21, at least 14. So, I'm
Yeah,
okay with how.
I'm not sure about 21, but I agree. They probably win by 10 to 14.
Yeah, it's going away either way. So, look, it's hard not to be impressed with Drake May. What I took away most was the mental toughness, and I asked Garrett Bradbury about this today. You know, a young, immature team, when you have 113 yards of offense taken away and touchdowns taken away, that team easily could have gone in the crapper yesterday, or I should say in years past. And they probably would have, but they didn't. They came right back, scored touchdowns, and did enough to win the game. Ultimately, you only get 17 chances to win on Sundays or Mondays or Thursdays. So a win is a win. You take it, you go home, and you're now 4-2. And in about an hour and a half, 2 hours, you might be in first place in the AFC East. So overall, good day for me.
Yeah, look, it's the National Football League. There's no such thing as an easy win. And even if you do pick up an easy win like they did a couple of weeks ago against Carolina, this is what most weeks are going to look like, what you've had the last 2 weeks. It's, again, the gap in talent is thin. The gap in coaching ability is thin. It's a pretty even league, and you're going to have to fight and scrap week to week to win a football game. It's just what it is, and that's why it's such a high-stakes, high-pressure profession, coaching in general, no matter what the sport is, but especially in the NFL, where, again, there isn't a real gap in talent. So I'm not surprised that the Saints played them tough. I think we all knew going into this game that the Saints were going to play them tough. What surprised me going into it, a couple of statistical nuggets. One, the Patriots going into that game yesterday were 5-1 in New Orleans all time, 4-1 in the Superdome. That does not include the Super Bowls, by the way. Now, they're 1-2 in Super Bowls in that building, but they picked up their sixth win in New Orleans yesterday, 11-6 now all time against the Saints. But the other thing that's an interesting little nugget here is that the Patriots have played 3 straight road games 13 times in their franchise history. 9 times they've gone 2-1. 4 times they've gone 1-2. On Sunday, if they can go to Tennessee and win, and they should now, especially after the Titans fired their coach Brian Callahan today, although some people might say that might actually help Tennessee on Sunday. If they go down to Tennessee and win on Sunday, this will be the first time. Now think about it, especially in the last 25 years, this will be the first time in franchise history that they've won 3 straight road games, that they've gone 3-0 in a 3-game span on the road. That's pretty impressive. And again, you win this week, now you're 5-2. You got Cleveland coming in here the following week. They're in really good shape here. Now, you watch this Atlanta team tonight, and we've been saying it for a couple of weeks now. The Atlanta Falcons are so trick or treat. You don't know what you're going to get out of them. Are you going to get the team that went up to Minnesota on Sunday Night Football and beat the Vikings? Or are you going to get the team that lost 30-0 in Carolina? Or are you going to get the team that at last check was up 21-7 on Buffalo? You don't know who you're going to get when it comes to them. So that's going to be a tough game the following week. But again, we can't stress this enough, and we've been saying it now for the past couple of weeks. The Patriots are in really good shape, especially with the schedule. The key now is you got to take it week to week, right? They can't look ahead. You can't start thinking about playoffs and everything else. It's way too early in the season for that. We can start talking about that. The fans can certainly talk about it, but the team can't. They've got to take a week-to-week approach.
They do, but I found it interesting. Drake May was on with Andy Hart and Nick Fitzy today on EI, and he was asked about, potentially being in first place after tonight. He said, look, that's been one of the goals since, Mike Vrabel took over. We all saw Forge in Foxborough when he went over, the team goals for the year. I don't think they'll shy away from talking about it. I know what you're saying. They're not going to focus on it, day in and day out. But I think if they're asked about it, or if they happen to remain in first place and the Bills leave that door open, I think you'll get them to at least talk about it during the season. But to your point, day to day, it won't come into their thought process or their preparation. But I also don't think they'll shy away from it either.
I don't want to sound like a curmudgeon, or at the risk of sounding like a curmudgeon. I don't want to hear it. I really don't. Look, we can, like I said, we can talk about it. The fans can talk about it, but I don't want to hear them talk about it. I want to know that they're focused on that week's opponent, and that's it. And quite frankly, if I were Vrabel or any of the players, Kevin, I would shoot it down. I don't want to talk playoffs. We're only going into week 7 here. I think it's way too early here to be thinking down the road. You know how it is in this league. God forbid something happens to Drake May or a key player on this team, and it derails the whole thing. You've already lost Antonio Gibson for the season. Something else happens to a key player on this team, it changes the calculus as far as I'm concerned. So because football is such a high injury sport, and injuries can change the course of your season and the outcome of your season, I would be very careful if I were them talking about it. I think, look, they're off to a nice start. I think we expected this. I think most people would have told you that they thought that this team would be 4-2 after 6 games. It's where they are. I think they're in a good spot here. Potentially in the next 2 weeks, they can come out of that stretch with a 6-2 record. Now you've got a little bit of wiggle room there as we go into the back half of the season when it comes to making the playoffs. And again, the goal is to win as many games as you can and then get into the tournament, as Bill Parcells used to say. But I think at the end of the day, my guess is Vrabel, the players, they're going to deflect on the playoff question. They're going to focus on the week-to-week aspect of what they do. And as we get into the season, if they're better positioned to have that conversation, I think they'll address it. But I would be surprised if the players are openly saying, yeah, we're going to make the playoffs. It's way too soon for that. The mighty Ken Matthias joins the show. Through 6 weeks, is Drake May a real MVP candidate the way he's been playing through the first few weeks? Yes, he is. He is an MVP candidate. I will give you that. I'm not sure he's going to win it, but he's certainly in the conversation. He's played at an MVP caliber level.
Yeah, deserves to be in the conversation, but if you had to vote today, I'd probably vote Baker Mayfield if it was me. But look, you got to win games. And he was asked about this again today on EEI as well. He knows. He said it's a long way away from being, in a real MVP discussion. Now, if they go 14-3, sure, he's probably going to be the MVP. But he deserves to be talked about in that discussion, but it's way too far speaking of getting too far ahead of ourselves, way too ahead of the game to talk MVP right now. But as of October, whatever it is, 11th, 12th, 13th, yeah, he deserves to at least be mentioned.
Do you think that the hype train is going a little too fast here with Drake May? Do you think that people are gushing over him a little too much? I think it's a little excessive. He's having a really good year, and yes, I do think he's in the MVP conversation. But do you think that the hype train is going a little too fast here, and it needs to slow down a little bit?
Yeah, probably. And I think that's just because we've seen so much garbage the last 4 years. People are
But
desperate.
Kevin, not to cut you off, man, but it's also happening nationally. Now all of a sudden,
True.
he's a revelation nationally. People who were on the Jaden Daniels Express last year, now all of a sudden they're questioning whether or not he's the best quarterback in the class, and now people are revisiting the 2024 draft and should he have gone ahead of Caleb Williams? Are we pushing the envelope here a little too far?
Um, I mean, it's a good question. Look, I think naturally you want that conversation around your team, right? Like, yeah, it might be a little bit overkill, but it's better than being mocked. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't mind it nationally. I think locally we can pump the brakes a little bit, but again, I think that's more fan base driven right now, just because people are so desperate to talk positively about this team. Nationally, I'm kind of okay with it. Again, just because after the last few years, it's better to be talked about positively and overhyped, I think, than the opposite. But you're probably right.
Yeah, well, of course, Caleb Williams and Jane Daniels will match up tonight. Chicago Bears at the Washington Commanders. That game is already kicked off. Look, I hate doing this because I kind of feel like you have to do it. But if we go back a year ago, you knew, right, throughout our draft coverage where I stood on Drake May. You knew that I thought he was the number one quarterback in the class. You know that I thought he was probably the best fit for the Patriots, either him or Jaden Daniels. I was never a Caleb Williams guy. I don't do the whole street baller thing. I want guys that are going to play within the system. Uh, look, he's ahead to me. He's ahead of where he should be in terms of his development. I didn't honestly expect him to be this far along in his development. I do think he's a little further along than I thought at this stage of the game. I agree with you, though. I do think that we do need to pump the brakes. I mean, all it takes is a couple of interceptions, a couple of bad decisions, and all of a sudden the narrative changes. So, while yes, it's great to see him developing here at an accelerated clip, I do think the hype train does need to slow down a little bit here because, again, 1 or 2 weeks, a bad stretch of play can change everything when it comes to a football team. And again, I go back to what I said earlier about injuries. That can change things as well. I do think we need to pump the brakes here. Not necessarily with the MVP talk. That's fine. He's playing at an MVP caliber level. I don't mind that. But I think you're starting to see people now mention him and Brady in the same sentence. Can we just relax? Remember now, Mac Jones had a great rookie year too, and we all thought he was the heir apparent. So let's slow down here. I mean, we're still, when it comes to this kid, I think the real conversation as to what he's going to be long term really starts at the end of next year. It's not really even this year. I know again, I'm not trying to pour cold water on everything here. I'm just being honest. That's when we're really, once we're about 2.5, 3 years into his career, that's when we can really make an honest assessment of what we think he's going to be down the road. Good friend of the show, Bill Vaughn, chimes in. If Buffalo loses tonight, Pats are guaranteed to get the bye and home field advantage throughout. Just kidding. Yeah, a little too soon for that, my friend, but I see what you did there. Seriously, they need to learn to run the football by December and January, or they won't go far in any playoff scenario. Bill, always great hearing from you, my friend. Thank you for checking in. And I couldn't agree with Bill more. They rushed for 73 yards yesterday, man. That's not good enough. They couldn't get into their 4-minute offense at the end of that game yesterday and salted away. That's a problem. You don't want to have to throw to win in those situations when you're playing with the lead, especially when that lead is less than 7 points. The running game is a problem. It's been a problem all year. They've got to figure it out. And in my opinion, it starts at the offensive line. The offensive line just has not been good enough in the run game.
Ironically enough, Garrett Bradbury said the same thing today. They had just watched him film with the guys that were in the building, and he said, "Look, the offensive line has to take more ownership." I'll ask you this: it's nice to hear that, but can you put it on the backs too, specifically Stevenson?
No, not in
Okay.
my opinion.
No,
I
I'm just
mean,
asking.
I guess what you could put on him is that he's running a little timid because of the fumbling problem. I think he's thinking about it. I think he's trying a little too hard to protect the ball. He's not as decisive as you want him to be after he gets the handoff. But not from what I've seen, man. I think a lot of this ultimately falls on the offensive line. It's easy to put it on the backs. And again, given their turnover problems this season, the backs are an easy scapegoat. But I think in this situation, I'm not blaming the backs. I think this starts and ends with the offensive line. They need to be better run blocking. They're not good enough right now.
So I'll ask you this: how do you practice it? Is it just
Oh,
repetition?
it's easy. You can fix the running game, man. It's easy to fix the running game. It really is. It's pass protection that can be tough. The
Yeah.
running game is easy to fix. What you need to do is you need to say, okay, these are 4 or 5 runs that we're going to hang our hat on, and these are the runs that we're going to marry ourselves to, and we're going to work those runs. And once we get to a point where those runs are effective and we think we can add more and get good at it, then we'll add more. But I think part of the problem right now is you need to develop an identity in your running game. What are you going to be? Are you going to be an outside zone, inside zone, one back man gap gun run team? Or are you going to get into more of this 21 stuff with Westover and be more of a downhill man gap, 2-back power run game? They've got to figure out what they want to be here. In my opinion, if that's what it takes to get this run game going old school 21 personnel and running lead, power, toss, outside zone, do it if that's what it takes. But I think they have to find a way to marry themselves to 4 or 5 running plays, hang their hat on those plays, get good at those plays, run the football better, and then they can go from there.
So I'm glad you said that because you always hear coaches and specifically Rabel saying, "Hey, we're going to keep working it. We're going to keep working it." But at some point, you got to see the execution on game day. So I was curious how, I guess specifically, you can work on in practice, and it sounds like it's just repetition at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, I've always said it. Running the football is an attitude thing. And listen, like anything else in football, it also involves your offensive line and how good they are. If you're not that good up front, you're going to struggle to run the football. I think this team is good enough up front, though, that they should be running the ball better than they have been. It's inexcusable to me the way they're running the ball. And yes, I do think that the backs should bear some of the responsibility, as should Josh McDaniels as the play caller. But I think ultimately it starts with those 5 guys up front. If they're not playing well as run blockers, your running game's going to suffer. That's what's been happening. That's been the end result. Ken Matthias checks back in with the running back room, being careful with the football. With Josh McDaniels, need to run more outside zone or involve the running game more. I don't think what does that matter? Why would he need to run more outside zone? Ken, I'm going to give you a piece of advice, my friend, and I'm going to give a lot of members of the media this advice. Pump the brakes on the scheme talk. Unless you really know what you're talking about, let's go easy with the scheme stuff. Too many people around here in the media love to start getting into the scheme stuff and getting into the weeds. And with all due respect, we have a great media group here. If I put them on the board, they wouldn't be able to block their way out of anything, okay? So let's pump the brakes on the O-line talk and the scheme talk. Kind of getting tired of it because I know they don't know what they're talking about. I've been trying to hold back on calling people out on it. I see it on X. Stop talking about scheme. Unless you've coached and you've been in there and you've rolled up your sleeves and been on that whiteboard and blocked stuff up, I don't want to hear from people. So no, Ken, to answer your question, I don't necessarily think that's the solution. And by the way, I did answer your question. I told Kevin what I told him. They need outside zone could be one of those plays, but you need to be able to do more than run outside zone. That's not the way the game works. All right, there you go.
Well, so just one more thing on the run game.
Why were you rolling your eyes there and looking around?
No, I wasn't. I will say.
No. See, 2 things. 1, I know you enjoyed that. And 2,
Of course I
you
did.
didn't know where it was going to go.
No, I got a little worried. I'm not gonna lie, but no. Look, the one good thing out of all
Sorry,
of
I had to
it,
get it off my chest.
I don't blame you. It's not gonna be the first time this year either. Well, I should say it won't be the last time. In terms of the lack of running game, the good news is that you're seeing Drake May win you games, and at least you know
Right.
that he can. That
Which
he
is
can do
why
that.
he should be in the MVP conversation
Correct.
because he is carrying this offense right now.
Legitimately by himself.
Him,
Well,
Diggs, and
yes,
Kayshon Boutte, basically. And
yeah,
I'd say Hunter Henry as well.
yeah. So again, the one good good thing you can take out of that, not having a run game, is your quarterback is legitimately carrying the team to wins right now. People had questions whether he could do that. So you do get some positive out of it.
No, absolutely. And again, I didn't mean, and I'm not attacking Ken here, and I'm not trying to necessarily attack people here, but it does get a little old when people start bumping their gums on X about line play. And I've said this forever, Kevin. The worst thing that's happened to football in the last 5 years is access to cut-ups, access to the all 22, because it's just created this entire generation of internet football coaches. And it drives me up a wall because I'm like, well, have you actually sat down with formation paper in front of you, put the play to paper, blocked it against multiple fronts, made adjustments to those fronts, adjusted your line calls? Have you done that? And I know people are going to say, well, you don't need to do that to have an opinion. And I agree, you don't. You don't need to be a line coach to have an opinion about line play. I agree. But what bothers me is when people start looking to say, well, I think they need to do more of this and then do more of that. Fine, you can have that opinion, but when you start getting into the weeds, it kind of bothers me. And I see too much of it in the media, and it drives me up a wall. It's like, relax. Let's not start trying to pretend like you've taken 15, 20 guys down the other end of the field with a 6-man sled and hand shields and work with them. It's not as easy as people think is my point. Dana Lorenko checks in. Do you think the Pats are going to be in the hunt at the trading deadline? A lot of rumors about A.J. Brown coming here. What do you think? Dana, great to hear from you, brother. Thanks for checking in, man. I would think that if they're playing at the level that they're playing right now and they're in the hunt for the AFC East and the top seed, yeah, I could see them potentially adding at the deadline. I don't buy the A.J. Brown talk. It makes no sense, in my opinion, for Philadelphia to trade him unless he's so unbearable in that locker room and a problem. It literally makes zero sense for the Eagles to trade A.J. Brown.
So short answer, yes, they should be. I'm with you. I don't think A.J. Brown is coming here at all, but I think you need to fill in some depth pieces for sure. If you have guys go down in certain areas, like a Carlton Davis, you need some help. So I'd like to see them active just in terms of adding depth. But yeah, if they're a contender, they should be on the phone. It's malpractice not to at least make phone calls or take phone calls. And for once, it'd be nice to not be talking about them being sellers this time of year. But yeah, they should be on the phone. Again, depending on where they're at standing wise, I think we all agree they're going to be in the hunt for a division title. So yes, make phone calls, but don't go selling the farm or try to make a deal just to make a deal. I'd prefer them to add again more depth in areas that they need it.
Yeah. No, I agree. Bill Vaughn checks back in. Not sure why they don't pitch to Henderson more in space to try to break a tackle. Middle of all line is an issue with me. Well, I mean, again, look, you can run toss, but the thing is, in the NFL, toss is not as effective a play as it is in college, and it's not as effective of a play in college as it is in high school, because the difference is on plays like that, the speed of the defenders. They can spill, they can play over the top, and they can get downhill fast. And so that's why you don't see a lot of teams in the NFL run toss. And if they do run it, they try to formation it to where they could set an edge and crack it. It's usually better that way because now you can get a body on those spilling linebackers and safeties, and now the play actually has a chance. But if you straight up run toss without trying to establish an edge, guys are too fast in the NFL on the defensive side of the ball for you to consistently get that play off. I get what you're saying. We saw Henderson's speed in college, especially during Ohio State's national championship run earlier this year. But again, I think toss is not a great play in the NFL. And I think if you do run it, you have to set it up to where it's you're either setting an edge, like I said, with crack blocks, or it's a zone toss where it stays inside the tackles and you can give the back kind of a three-way go, really, where they can read the blocking scheme and attack it. Ken checks back in. Fair enough. All due respect, I very much understanding when it comes to scheme talk. You both know more than I do. Ken, that's not the point. I'm not here to say that I know more than you or anybody else knows.
I definitely don't. So
Yeah, I mean, look, that's not. And again, I didn't say what I said, and thank you for checking in, Ken. And we do appreciate you checking in every week. I didn't say what I said because I'm trying to flex here. I should know more than you. I've coached for 30 years. When it comes to the X's and O's, yes, I know more than you. But that's not why I said what I said. I think what bothers me is a lot of people, as I said earlier, getting into the weeds here with the X's and O's, and they kind of don't know what they're talking about. And it comes across as goofy, in my opinion. And it's, again, you're more than entitled to talk X's and O's. I mean, this is a free country. All I'm saying is, though, I've seen some people talk about their running game and what they need to do. Let's go easy on that. I mean, again, it's easy to say, I think they need to run more outside zone. Okay, why? Why do they need to run more outside zone? Or you could say, well, I think they need to run more power, or they need to run more toss, or they need to run more lead, or whatever, more boss, whatever the play call is. At the end of the day, though, you better be able to explain why they need to do that. To just simply throw it out there so that you sound like you know what you're talking about, I'm not a fan of that. That's all I'm saying. But Ken, thank you for checking in. Appreciate it as always. And yes, I do think they'll continue rolling in Nashville, which, by the way, I have to get this off my chest. And I think you'll agree with me, Kevin. What a cowardly move by the Tennessee Titans today, firing Brian Callahan on the week that Mike Vrabel returns. That is such a cowardly move by the Adams family, that organization. This is why they are arguably the worst franchise in the league right now. They're a joke. It's a joke move. They don't make this move if they beat the Raiders yesterday. They won their first game of the season 2 weeks ago. Obviously, they weren't going to make the move then. But you make the move now, knowing that Vrabel's going to come back. You're going to get heat publicly. People are going to say, well, you got rid of that guy after a couple of tough seasons. For this guy, it didn't work out. They're looking to save face. I think this is embarrassing. They should be embarrassed as an organization for doing this now. What a joke. What a collection of losers in Nashville. There's a reason why it's a loser franchise.
I'll start off by saying I used to have an Eddie George jersey, so I used to like the franchise. So I actually hadn't thought of it that way. When I first heard it, I kind of figured they wanted to steer a conversation away from Vrabel returning, whatever that entailed. You know what I mean? So whether it was making a trade or, in this case, firing a coach, I think it was to get the attention off of Vrabel returning, which I guess in a way is sort of saying the same thing that you are. Um, the most striking thing to me today was obviously Vrabel was asked about returning, and he said, "Look, we have to figure out, is it important or is it interesting?" And he said, "I think this falls under the category of it's interesting, but from a Patriot standpoint, it means nothing." He's solely focused on getting the team ready to go. He said, "Yeah, look, there's some people I still talk to there. It would be good to see some old faces, all that regular kind of stuff." But I love the fact that he's solely locked in on getting the team ready. And now, look, any coach probably would have said that, but it is nice to hear it. This all happened after Vrabel talked today, so we won't get his or any thoughts on what happened until Wednesday. But yeah, you're probably right. It probably is a cop out. But my first thought was just steering conversation away from Vrabel and getting it on Tennessee, at least locally.
I don't know.
Locally,
Like
not
I
there.
said, I know I'm in an ornery mood tonight anyway, but I think, in my opinion, I just think it's a punk move. It's a punk move. It really is.
Oh, it
Look,
is.
they were going to fire him at the end of the year regardless. It has not gone well. The guy went 4-19 in the games he coached, okay? I get it. And he wasn't developing Cam Ward. Cam Ward hasn't gotten better. It hasn't worked there. But I do think at the end of the day, you make that move this week knowing that the former coach is coming back to town. Why not make this move next week? I don't get it. I just don't. He wasn't. Look, they're going to be picking in the top 3 again next April, okay? He was a dead man walking anyway. He was gone after the season. The timing of it, I think, sucks, and I think it illustrates just how much of a loser franchise the Titans are. Us simple folks, Bill Vaughn says, can point out what we think we see. I would hope don't need to be a coach or an insider. No, Bill, you don't. You're right. You
Just
don't need to be a coach or an insider. But I will tell you this, Bill. If my car's making a funny noise, I'm not going to try to diagnose it myself. You know why? Because I don't know shit about cars. I would bring it to a mechanic. Okay? My point is you're 100% right. You have every right to state your opinion, whether it's on X's and O's or not. All I'm saying is I think a lot of people, though, in this industry today are getting into the weeds here with the X's and O's and the plays and everything else. And all I'm saying is they're talking out of their ass. And after a while, and it's not just me, I've talked to a lot of people that are in the football world that are on the coaching side of things that are like, it's kind of annoying to see that out there. They don't really realize how hard what we do is. And I'm like, well, because they don't want to, they view it as they have answers. And the reality is they don't. But Bill, you're more than entitled to share your opinion, my friend, on anything. And we hope that we provide you with a platform to do that. It's just, again, I'm in a mood today, and I'm not in the mood for people pretending to be O-line coaches. I guess that's the moral of the story. Ken checks back in. You guys thoughts on the way Booty played yesterday and the connection he has built with May. I said this. I tweeted it out. I don't even know what you call it anymore, but I tweeted out yesterday that the Patriots' patience with him the last 2 years, whether it be Belichick, Mayo, and now Vrabel, their patience with him, I think, is starting to pay off. Look, this is a kid who, after his freshman year, was projected as a first-round pick, okay? And then he had some off-the-field issues. He got hurt. He had some consistency issues, and he fell in the draft the year he came out. And the talent is there. It's real. He's a legitimate number 2 receiver in this league. He's a legitimate Z. I think he's at his best as a flanker, a Z or an F. I think you can move him around in formations. He can play the X as well. But I think his versatility, I think he's got strong hands. I think he's a terrific route runner. He's a clean route runner who can get in and out of breaks without breaking stride. He's fluid. I think all of the things that he does well are really, really being brought out of him in this system. You saw it last year. I thought he started to really grow in Van Pelt's version of the West Coast offense. But I think this year, this system, I think is tailor-made for him. And that's why I think he's thriving. I think it's awesome. You love to see it because, Kevin, you've been around him since he's been here. It hasn't been easy for him. But I think he's by his own admission, he's saying, hey, I've grown up. I've been better. And I think that attitude is reflecting in his play. And I think ultimately that's why he's been as good as he's been for the Patriots. Is his attitude has changed, and he's a good fit in this scheme.
Yeah, you hit on everything. For me, it's 2 things. One, the patience by the team, particularly Vrabel. Not his guy. He easily could have moved on
Yeah.
in the offseason.
So they loved him from the beginning, man. If you remember in camp,
OTAs.
he was repping with the ones really right out of the gate.
Yeah, I mean, OTAs, same thing. And I genuinely think Steph Diggs has had a huge impact on him. Really,
positive impact.
Yes. The entire room, really. I mean, we could talk about, might as well bring up Pop right now, too. If you have those 2 guys doing what they did yesterday, while Diggs does draw attention, it's game-changing for Drake May. He doesn't need to have just one go-to guy on a 3rd and 5. It doesn't have to be, Hunter Henry or Diggs all the time. You saw it, 3rd and 11 with the game on the line yesterday. He throws to Booty on the sideline, and Booty makes a hell of a play. So, again, it's the patience by the team. It's Booty's willingness to adapt to what this offense is, especially Josh McDaniels' offense. We always hear, how hard it is. He's picked it up just fine. So that's impressive as well, given what he's already gone through. So really just a combination of everything, I think, has helped him out. And again, I think Steph Diggs has been huge for all the receivers in that room, but particularly Booty. You could see in OTAs and even training camp, that relationship was there very early on.
Yeah, and I'm going to go back to a conversation I had with Evan Lazar a couple of weeks ago after the Carolina game where, he said to me as we were walking back to the press box that Diggs was so misunderstood, that the narrative out there about Diggs was so wrong. And I think you're seeing it because it's not just his performance. You're also seeing it in the performance of these other guys, these younger receivers, who, to your point, he's clearly had a positive impact on.
Especially a day like yesterday. What do you have, 3 catches for 28 yards?
Yeah.
And he was thrilled after the game. You
Yeah.
see him walking back to the locker rooms, yelling.
I wasn't because I started him, and
But yelling, that's
but
3 in a
somebody
row.
was thrilled.
But Diggs
But
yelling
again,
that's
I'm being a curmudgeon right now, so
clearly. But him, all the way back to the locker room, yelling that's 3-0, 3-0, or 3 in a row. If I could speak, he's all on board with the team aspect. And again, I think it's helping the receivers. I don't know if you saw the clip last week. He received a Hemi Award. I'm still not sure what that is or who it's from. But he brought the entire receiver group out to take a social media video with the team and celebrate. And he said, I get something, we all get something. I think it's spreading throughout that room. And even a guy like Efton Chisholm, who did his first little bit of podium media today, talked about the leadership that him and Matt Collins have brought to the table. So you can't overstate what Diggs has meant specifically to Booty.
and you can't overstate what Matt Collins means to this team. I mean, not only the
Yeah.
production on the field, but the leadership in the locker room. He's also a character. He's a great presence in the locker room. He's a fun guy. He's great to be around. He's an interesting guy. I know I enjoy talking to him off the record, off the cuff, just having regular conversation with him. He's a great dude, and I think he's been a real positive in that locker room. A guy that I think you got to keep around here. I think he's a guy that needs to play here for a couple years anyway, because he brings a lot to this team. And again, we know what Stephon Diggs can do. He's a potential Hall of Famer down the road. But Matt Collins, I think, in a lot of ways, has been just as important to this team's success, both on and off the field. You are watching / listening to the New England Football Show presented by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Sarianides. As always, I'm joined by my partner, the incomparable Kevin Stone. We do want to remind you that if you are in the market to sell your current home, purchase your next home, purchase your first home, or refinance, give our good buddy Herb Devine a call, 781-254-2846. You can also shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. He and his team are available anytime, including nights and weekends, and we want to wish Coach Devine good luck this week. The Sailors have a big game on Friday night when they host the undefeated Quincy Presidents on Friday night. Coach Ed DeWitt has done a great job with that Quincy program. Not surprised if you know Coach DeWitt. You know what kind of person he is and what kind of coach he is. So that should be one of the best games of the night on Friday night here in Massachusetts on the high school slate. So, again, we want to wish Coach Devine and the Sailors the best of luck, and we want to wish Quincy the best of luck as well as all the other teams. All right, let's talk some college football here. That means all the comments are going to go away. By the way, Bill Vaughn, if you're still watching, I expect you to chime in for this segment. You want to talk about getting your opinions out? I'm giving you a platform. You know what I'm talking about. I need you to jump in and talk some UMass here in a couple minutes. But before we do that, I don't know what to say about this Boston College football team anymore, man. I will honestly tell you, I felt bad for Bill O'Brien the other night. I really did. And OB's not the kind of guy that wants anybody to feel bad for him. He's a tough guy, and he's been through a lot in his coaching career. He's had a lot of success. Like any coach, he's also had some downs, but they're 1-5. They weren't really competitive on Saturday night. I mean, it was more about what Clemson didn't do in the second half of that game than Boston College did. This is a bad situation now. And I thought you put out an interesting tweet today. You talked about the possibility of a quarterback change. And I do agree with you. I think we're going to see that. This is me speculating. But I do think you're going to see that. Or at the very least, you're going to see two quarterbacks play on Saturday against UConn. But I don't know how you fix this. I said this to you last week. I thought they would play better this week. I thought they would have played with a level of pride. He thinks they did as their coach. He knows his players a hell of a lot better than we do. I didn't see it watching the game. They're in a bad way right now. They need a win in the worst way on Saturday, but I'm telling you, man, this UConn game is going to be a war. It's going to be a hard game for them to win. Joe Fagnano is playing out of his mind right now. He's the only FBS quarterback left in the country that hasn't thrown an interception yet. Of course, that could change Saturday, but he is playing at an extremely high level. This is going to be another hard game for them to win, but they are in a bad way right now, man, at 1-5.
So I'll start there first. If you remember right, Joe Fagnano came in here with Maine. I think it was either 2 or 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
And they didn't beat BC, but they made that a lot closer than people expected.
Well, my
That
former
kid's going to
KP
come in here
kicker,
ready to
Cole
go.
Baker, was in that game. I remember.
That kid's going to come in here ready to go.
Yeah.
I'm not making any predictions right now, but do not be surprised if UConn wins this game. I'm going to tell BC fans right now. This UConn team, in name, is still being mocked by BC fans, and
Which is ridiculous, by the way.
right,
After the year they had last year,
right.
after the last two of the last 3 years, they're 4-2 coming into the game. I don't think that the Boston College faithful is in any position to mock anyone, let alone a team that's coming in here with a winning record.
So I will say it's not as bad as I expected early on. There is some trepidation. BC fans don't think this is a guarantee, and they shouldn't. I think I
No,
saw the line. It's two
UConn
and a
has
half
beaten them
points.
before. They beat them 3 years ago down at the Ren.
Right, we were there for that one. So I think the line's 2.5 points. Look, the other night was not as bad as the scoreboard indicates. They were driving to cut that game to 24-17 until Dylan wanted to give him a strip sacked. Bill O'Brien then chose to go for it on the next drive after getting the ball back on fourth down at his own, I want to say 43. I could have the yardage wrong. Didn't get it. Clemson kicks a field goal, makes it 34-10 at the half, and that's ball game. Look, speculation as well. I'd be shocked if you don't see another quarterback play this weekend. If nothing else, give Dylan Water get a breather. He's still played, 6 games of football now. Clearly, stuff is coming at him very quickly. Clearly, the O-line is just not what we thought, especially you and I thought it was going to be this season. Again, we're both huge Matt Applebaum guys. It hasn't been good this year. It's the running game is still non-existent. They still have one game over 100 yards rushing, and that is it. And that was against Cal. I think Turbo Richard had the majority of it. So no running game, no pass protection. Jaden Skeet has been out for either 3 or 4 weeks now. It's a big hit to the receiver group, which just hasn't performed up to par. Flat out.
Lewis Bond has. The rest of that group has not, though.
That's fair. That's fair. Look, I think just flat out, they're not as good as we thought they were. I think that's the majority of it right now. The talent just isn't there. And granted, the other night, Clemson's speed and talent was on full display right out of the gate. Like, it's just, they're infinitely more talented. It is what it is. That's how it's going to be. And again, we keep going back to this until BC starts paying for better talent. That's how this works now. So, in terms of this season, you can't lose on Saturday. Because if people think this is rock bottom for BC, losing to UConn at home, and I know we just talked up UConn, but you're still BC. You're still an ACC team. You're still the major program in New England for recruiting purposes, for pride purposes, just for the rest of the season to ensure guys really don't quit. You cannot lose this game at home. That's why I think you'll ultimately probably see a quarterback change. But I don't see them winning more than 1 or 2 more games the rest of the way. If you look at that schedule, you still have Georgia Tech, you still have Notre Dame, you still have SMU. You now have a primetime game at Louisville, which is a conversation all by itself. But if you lose this game, you're looking at a 1 or 2 win season, tops. And you might be anyways. But this weekend of all weekends, if you are going to at least change the narrative for, call it 6-7 days, you got to find a way this week. And frankly, I'm not sure they can.
Yeah, well, I mean, and it's not going to be easy. Look, UConn can be very helter-skelter. I mean, they did go down to Delaware and lose.
Yeah, they gave up 41 points to Delaware.
They gave up 41 points to Delaware, but they also almost beat Syracuse. So they're a hard team to figure out in their own right. But again, when you look at that skill group, they're coming off a bye, so they will have had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. You got Joe Fagnano, you got Cam Edwards, you got Skylar Bell, who, by the way, is going to be the best receiver in the game.
And BC secondary is banged up.
Their secondary is banged up. He's primed to have a big day. Lewis Hanson at tight end. They've got a deep receiver room. That offense is going to get theirs. The way this BC defense is playing right now, and they have been awful, that offense is going to get theirs. There's no doubt about that. It's can the Boston College offense keep up? And that's why I think we both ultimately agree they're going to make a quarterback change at some point, whether it's they go back to Grayson James, whether it's Shaker Rising, whoever it is, I think you're going to see them play. At the very least, they're going to play two quarterbacks, but they may start one of those other guys. We'll see. But at the end of the day, they got to do something to jumpstart this. Now, Bill O'Brien did take over the offensive play calling. That didn't make a difference, but I suspect he's probably going to call plays the rest of the year. Is that the right move in your opinion?
Well, let me ask you this. What do you think Will Walling is doing during the game? Like, is he just sitting there? No, right? So I
No.
feel like, yes, he said he's calling plays. I'm still not sure I buy it. I still feel like that's a collaboration, and it's
Oh, it
okay.
is. Long's not just sitting there picking his nose. It
That's
100% is a collaboration. I mean,
right. So
Long, for all we know, could still be calling the plays, but O'Brien is taking a more active role when the play call comes through as to whether or not he wants it and whether or not he's going to change it. He may not fully be calling the plays, but listen, he's 100% involved in that process. And we don't want to speculate here because the number one thing I don't ever want to do, I'm a coach at heart. I don't want to speculate about people's job security, but I get the sense that if this thing continues to go the way it's going, if in fact that there are play calling changes, I think you're going to see potentially even more of this down the road the rest of this season.
So that's more so what I was getting at. But um, again, the offense, they moved the ball a little bit against Clemson, but the lack of a running game, we just talked about it with the Patriots, that's what's killing your quarterback play. Um, the offensive line simply, A, isn't giving any quarterback enough time, and B, getting zero push. So if teams can tee off on you, there's not much you can do offensively. Again, I love that he's saying, it's on me, it's on me, it's on me. But at some point, man, players just have to go out and execute. You've said that to me the hundreds of times since we started this website. So I'm with you. I'm starting to feel bad for O'Brien at some point, but there's just so many different things. It's not one thing with BC right now. It's a combination of a lot of things, and ultimately everything is just snowballing on them right now.
Yeah. 100% is. And I think at the end of the day, that's the problem here. I don't know how to fix it. And to be honest with you, and I know Boston College football fans aren't going to want to hear this, I'm not sure Bill O'Brien knows how to fix it.
No, he point blank said that on Friday night.
Yeah.
The other problem too, is when you start having recruits in, they have 4 home. I think either 4 or 5 of the rest of their games are at home. That place is going to start to be empty. So again,
It doesn't help.
no, just image wise, again, there's so many different things going wrong right now. I'm not sure where you start to try and fix it. So again, this weekend it goes at least a little bit of the way to stop the bleeding. But if you lose this game, if you're BC, UConn's going in with nothing to lose. I think all the pressure's on BC.
Absolutely. UConn's playing with house money. UConn knows that if they win this game on Saturday,
oh man.
Look, they came here 2 years ago. That was a competitive game, man. And Mora talked after the game about how Boston College physically was a different team than the one they had beaten the year before.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you right now, this UConn team is more than good enough to come in here on Saturday and get the win. And if they do, it's huge for them now because it puts them on a track where they could potentially win 9 to 10 games this season. Well, and for Boston College, it's just flat out crippling. It would be a bad loss for them. And to your point, I think it would set them on a trajectory now where you're looking at a 2, maybe 3-win season if you're lucky.
And for UConn, you win this game, you're 1 win away from another bowl. Like, that's on the line still, too. So,
and they still have to play Duke and Air Force. They've got some challenging games coming up.
But you get to 5-2 and make sure you only need one more out of that that last month of the season or a month and a half. That's huge for them.
Yeah, no, it is. UMass loses to Kent State 42-6. I don't know what to say anymore. All I know is this, that the UMass fan base had a nuclear meltdown on Saturday evening. They melted down.
Rightfully so.
They've been kind of dormant. Even last season, as bad as things were, you had your staples on X that had their opinions. But they had a nuclear meltdown on Saturday evening and Saturday night. And look, I don't blame them. The one thing I will say, we can't just immediately rush to fire people as soon as they lose a game they should have won. And I get it. And I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to get into who should have a job, who shouldn't get a job, who shouldn't have a job. And if some people out there think we're being wusses about it and not taking a stand, then so be it. Think whatever the hell you want. I don't really care. At the end of the day, if you think the solution is to get rid of the AD right now, okay, that's your opinion. It's not going to do anything for the program. If you think the solution is get rid of Joe Harasimiak after 1 year, okay, that's great. Bring in another coach. What's that going to do? You've gone from a guy that you all wanted in Don Brown to a guy that you may or may not have wanted, but came in with pedigree, a good resume, a resume of success in the area as a head coach. He was the guy that your athletic director targeted from the beginning. Everybody was on board with the Harasimiak hiring. Things have not gone well. You can make the case that this is as bad as they've been the last few years. But at the end of the day, you can't continue to hire and fire coaches and become a revolving door. You're not going to build a program. Bottom line is you got to spend more money. You got to upgrade the facilities. You've got to build that NIL initiative to where you're paying players, especially specific players that you're targeting to come in here and help you turn this thing around. You got to be able to pay them buco bucks, so they're not going to come here. Okay, with all due respect, it's Amherst, Massachusetts. Guys are tripping all over themselves to come here and play here. I hate to tell you. Okay, so you're going to have to make it appealing for them. The way to do that is facilities and money. And until UMass makes an actual commitment to those two things, nothing's going to change, no matter how much the fan base complains, cries, and shouts. It's not going to change anything. And let's be honest, Kevin. Okay, you're a state university. What is the incentive of the state to step in these economic times, nonetheless, and spend more money on this program? This program hasn't proven that they deserve to have money spent on them. Now, I think they should spend money on the program. I've been very clear on that. But I'm having people ask me what I think should happen there. You're in the MAC. You got to stay the course. You've got to stay the course, plain and simple. You're going to have more TV money coming in. You're in a conference. You've got to stay the course and hope Harasimiak's the guy and he can get it going in the next couple of years. But to simply walk away from him right now, fire him, fire Bamford, fire everybody. Listen, I know that people love to fire people when things don't go their way. That's not going to fix anything right now. This program needs a lot more than that.
So I'll start with that. You can't fire a coach after a year. You can't do it. Not in today's. And who's going to take that job anyways? You're lucky
exactly.
He took it.
Well, and guess what? You know the old adage used to be, Bill Belichick couldn't win there. You're right. He can't win in North Carolina. He's not going to win at UMass.
Fair. But I was honestly encouraged by what he said post-game. He was pissed post-game. And look, he's rightfully pissed. But
Kevin, that's going to fall on deaf ears. It's the same thing with O'Brien. You could sit there every single week and say, it's on me, it's my fault, blah, blah, blah. Look, with all due respect, and I'm not speaking for O'Brien or Harasimiak, but I can tell you this as someone who's been a head coach, albeit it was at the high school level. You can only tell so many people, so many times that it falls on you and it's your fault.
Yeah.
Eventually that falls on deaf ears.
So, yes, but I don't think he said that. He was more saying we need to make changes. Some people aren't going to like what we do on this team and on this staff. I thought that was sort of refreshing, but I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. People around there, especially that fan base, won't believe it until they see results. So I get that. But look, again, you can't fire a coach after a year. It's just you can't. Let him recruit. Let him work it. Work the recruiting pipelines and all that. And after year two, if you're still getting embarrassed by a team that's struggling as badly as you, like Kent State was, well, then we can talk.
Kent State is on the brink of folding as a program.
Right. But speaking, I'm glad I originally lost my train of thought. I'm glad you just said that. So going back to BC for a second, people have been saying they should drop to FCS. That'll never happen.
BC should drop to FCS?
Yeah, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I know. But in terms of...
I can't.
I know, but...
We really have reached the apex of stupidity.
I know.
Especially in sports talk.
But when you hear UMass fans, and we've heard this for years now, saying they should drop back down, I know it probably would never happen because you just joined a conference, but they at least have an argument for it. And again, I know
They do, but
you know what I mean.
no, they do, and I agree with you, and
Yeah.
I will tell you this: I don't think it's out of the question.
No, I don't either.
I just don't think that they're going to rush to do that now. I
Well,
think
you just destroy the map.
you've exactly. And while people will say, well, they've already hit rock bottom, I think you got to go down a little bit more to the bottom before they make that decision.
And this from the time we've covered them, this might be the lowest.
Yeah,
I
no, I
think,
agree. I think they've hit rock bottom.
but again, to bring that up,
That's stating the obvious. Let's be real. They probably hit rock bottom 2 years ago.
probably. So, but again, I just go back to the FBS conversation. I think this weekend was the first time I actually said, you know what, they kind of have a point. And again, I know we just said it's never say never, but with the whole Mac thing, you're gonna have to just kind of suck this up and
Well,
wait a
if you
while.
go back to FCS, look, you can still play the money games. You'll get on a
Cool.
plane, go somewhere, get your face kicked in,
Right.
take the paycheck, and come home. Okay, you can still play the money games as an FCS school. We're sitting here talking about how great URI is. They go out to Western Michigan a couple of weeks ago, lose 47-14, get their paycheck, and come home. You could still do that as an FCS school. The problem is you're in a conference now. If you were still in the same boat that UConn is in, then yes, I think you can make the argument, you know what, we gave it a shot. It didn't work. We thought we could play at Gillette. That was a bad idea. We didn't invest in it the way we should. We're going back down to FCS. We've seen that happen in the past. That happens all the time. It's happened with, Idaho comes to mind. I think the problem is, though, you are in a conference, and the problem is that conference money, the TV money that you're going to get, no matter what it is, that helps your entire athletic department, not just your football program. And so I think, in my opinion, it's going to be really hard for them to justify going back down. Now, you mentioned BC going to the FCS level. There are some UMass people that think they should drop the program. That's even dumber.
Oh, BC people do
and
too.
I caution people with the drop the program crowd. Look what happened in Northeastern and BU when they dropped football. Unless their basketball teams make a tournament run. I know people love Hockey East around here. They love the bean pot and all that other stuff. That's a regional thing. The rest of the country doesn't care about the bean pot. They don't care about college hockey. I'm not dissing college hockey.
No,
I don't have a problem with that. I'm just being honest. The profile of those programs, they've gone from being somewhat relevant to irrelevant. And the point is, football still the centerpiece of most athletic programs. You need it. UMass needs it. They can't drop football. It's not even an option. Bill Vaughn checks back in. He says, wonder what corner of the room Governor Healy hides in at the governor's conventions when the talk goes to discussing their public flagship football teams.
The best comment of the night.
It is. Bill, to be honest with you, at least in my opinion, I don't think she gives a crap.
I was saying she has no idea what UMass is.
Yeah.
I
think she knows where UMass is. I just don't think she cares.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I don't think that it's important to her. I don't think it's important to the state, which is why I keep saying to people, we can sit here and talk about the state putting more money into this program all we want. But the fact of the matter is, what is the return on investment going to be? This program has not proven in recent years that it's worth investing in. And I don't think that the state of Massachusetts, in a state that isn't a, quote, football state, is going to invest in the football program. It's not going to happen. I mean, quite frankly, you know how it works. They're not just going to invest in the football program. They're then going to have to invest in the hoop programs. And she played college basketball. So they're going to have to invest in the hoop programs. And then on top of that, you've got the Title IX piece. They're going to have to invest in the women's program. So whatever investment they make in football is not really going to be such a big investment that it's going to turn the fortunes of the program around. We got to be realistic about it.
Well,
that money's going to have to come from the alumni and donors. That's where that money's going to have to come from if they want to build up the facilities and make the program more appealing.
Yeah, I mean, look, we talked about the stadium and putting money into that a couple of weeks ago. That only gets you so far. Like, there's so much, again, we talked about a lot, going around with BC. There's so many different spots at UMass where stuff is just wrong right now that it's almost hard to pick a starting point, but you got to start somewhere. They're a mess. They're a mess. And the entire, dropping down, back down thing, it sounds good in theory, but again, it's just not going to happen right now.
No,
it can't.
No, it's not. No, and nor should it. You got to give it at least 3 years in the MAC before you have those conversations and make the decision to go back to FCS. And look, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to go back to FCS. The problem is, I think as we go along here, especially if there is a schism of sorts and the Power Four programs separate themselves from the group of fives in FCS and Divisions 2 and 3, I think if that happens, those money games aren't going to be there. And so now it becomes a matter of, well, is football going to be profitable enough to where we're investing in it to keep it going? Now, all of a sudden, the question of dropping the program becomes a legitimate question. So they've got to be careful here. Right now, as I've said in recent weeks, they spend about $12 million a year on the football program. That's not enough. They got to do better than that. They've got to do better with the facilities. They've got to figure it out with the NIL. They got off to a good start with their NIL initiative, and then the school got involved. It got messed up. They've got a lot they need to fix. And yes, ultimately it does fall on athletic director Ryan Bamford, but I think it's deeper than that. Bill checks back in. He says dropping down is a gradual money drain as weak. Oh, as well. Okay. So he says dropping down is a gradual money drain as well. Yes, 100%, Bill. I couldn't agree with you more. And that's just it. At least now you've got some of that ESPN, Maction TV money coming in. That's being shared around the MAC. It's easier for you to get those money games now because you're an FBS program. You go down to the FCS level, man, I'm telling you, those money games are going to start disappearing. They're not going to be there. The gates aren't going to be there. It's not financially, you're going to be investing money in a program that's not bringing any money in. At least now they're bringing something in and you can somewhat justify it.
Well, and to your point too, you want new facilities. You're not getting it with FCS money. Well,
No.
well, I shouldn't say that. Bryant is maybe an exception around here.
Yeah, but that's different.
Yes.
That isn't because that's alumni money, that's donor money, that's the school making a financial commitment. But Bryant also knows they're never going to be anything more than an FCS program.
Right, which is why they're all in.
Right. Yeah. So, but a lot of that, yes, it was a commitment from the school. The school wanted to upgrade the facilities, and they're certainly not done there. But I think in the case of UMass, look, I said this a couple of weeks ago. You can renovate McGuirk. You're putting makeup on a pig. At the end of the day, right. You need more than that. You need an indoor facility. You need to add to your football performance center. They need a $50 to $75 million commitment to really get this thing going in the right direction. And the problem is, and I'm going to say something that's not going to be very popular, I go back to return on investment. The problem is, do you, as the state of Massachusetts, do donors want to invest in a football program, invest that kind of money in a football program that's not winning? And I'll take it a step further, in a football program that's in the MAC. It's not like you're in the SEC. It's not like you're in the Big Ten. It's not even like you're in the ACC.
Tuesday nights.
Right. Or Conference USA or the Big 12. You're not in one of those conferences. You're in the MAC. And look, you say they play on Tuesday nights. Maction is wildly popular.
Oh, yeah. Don't get me wrong.
But again, my point is, again, when you think about it from a return on investment perspective, the program's not going to make that money back. So a couple of other college tidbits. URI gets back on track with a big win over UNH. Brown beats Bryant coming from behind. They were down 12-0 at the half on Friday night. They outscored the Bulldogs 29-7 in the second half. They are now 3-1. First time since 2013 that Brown has beaten 3 non-league opponents in the same season. So good for James Perry and his coaching staff there. They got a big one on Saturday with Princeton coming to town. And, when you look at going back to URI, they needed that. They're still in the hunt in the CAA. They're still in the hunt for an at-large playoff berth, but they really don't have much room for error now. They need to essentially win out if they want to stay in the CAA race.
Yeah, it's a bad loss for UNH. I think they're up 27-17 going to the fourth, if I'm not mistaken. So, but on the flip side, great comeback for URI. That's a game they desperately needed. They had lost 2 straight. And Jim Fleming had acknowledged, last week going into the game, hey, all that preseason hype doesn't mean a damn thing unless we win games consistently. So that's a big one for them, especially coming off that Brown loss in the Governor's Cup. That's always a killer for them. I still think they should still end up winning the CAA. I really do. I don't think Monmouth or Elon is as good as them, but tough for UNH though. I'm not sure if they can really make that run now. It had been 16 playoff appearances in 20 years, but to come out of this hole now, again, that
It's going to be
CAA is, yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, no, I agree. Switching gears here to high school football. Obviously, another great week of action in the region. Some big upsets. Wilton beating Staples convincingly. Big win there for Wilton in Connecticut. Over the weekend, you also had great NEPSAC ISL Founders League matchup with Milton Academy and Loomis Chaffee. Milton Academy coming out on top in that one, 24-6. Methuen improved to 4-1 with a big win over Central Catholic. Of course, Central Catholic was coming off a win over Xaverian. Catholic Memorial, who has a big one this week against Xaverian, they handled Malden Catholic. A lot of great games in the area. Plymouth South they upset Situate 2 weeks ago. They get upset this weekend by Quincy. I mentioned earlier, Quincy off to a 5-0 start. It's been quite a football season so far, Kevin, both here in Massachusetts and in New England. Bonnie Eagle up in Maine with an impressive 34-7 win over Portland. The Scots improved to 6-0 in that one. Hartford up in Vermont had another big win beating Burton. So the Hurricanes are 6-0 up in Vermont. Of course, the Vermont playoffs are going to start in a couple of weeks. So we got a couple big games down in Rhode Island this weekend as well. You've got LaSalle at St. Ray's. That'll be a big one. Hendricken returns to action after a bye week as well. Got a couple of other big games down in the Ocean State as well. But it's been a good high school football season so far.
Yeah, just three quick things on the college before we go to high school. Harvard is rolling. They're 4-0. I still think they might be the best offense in FCS or certainly the Ivy League. It's going to be hard to stop them. CCSU won again, too. Big win for them. And Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart's having a hell of a season. They won again this weekend,
Improved
too.
to 5-2.
Yeah, so it's a shame that they're independent still, but they're going to make some noise in the CAA next year. On to high school, though, I was at Medfield Medway, and I got to tell you, Mateo Benson and Brady, I'm forgetting, Yes, Brady McCormick, combined for 356 yards. And all I could think of was you, because this team just pounded the ball. They ran 44 plays and threw it twice. I hadn't seen anything like that in person in a long, long time. So they're impressive as hell. They're 5-0 now. They're going to be really tough to beat in general. That CM and Xaverian game this weekend, that's going to be the game of the weekend. Looking forward to seeing that. But yeah, man, the playoffs are coming. 3 weeks or 2 more weeks left in the regular season?
Halloween is the at least in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Halloween is the regular season finale before the playoffs. So
crazy.
Yeah. No, it is. It is. And we've got some big games this weekend as well. You mentioned CM Xaverian. You got Dartmouth Barnstable, which is going to be another good one. Nice interstate matchup. And over at Pinkerton, which should be a really good matchup. Pinkerton, of course, undefeated up in New Hampshire in Division I. Andover is 4-1. You've got some good matchups this weekend. So should be another great weekend of high school football. And, of course, as always, New England Football Journal will have you covered. All right, any final thoughts here, Stone, before we wrap it up?
Nope, same as always. Keep supporting us. We appreciate it. We are going to be everywhere, especially when the playoffs start rolling. We put on cover a lot. So the support really helps, and the more support we get, the more games we can cover.
Yeah, and of course, as always, a subscription would go a long way in helping us out. For $2.99 a month, you get some of the best football coverage in New England. Visit anyfootballjournal.com for more information on how to subscribe. And to subscribe, again, your support is greatly appreciated. That will do it for this week's episode of the New England Football Show. For Kevin Stone, I'm John Sarianides. We will be back with you next week. Until then, be happy, be safe, be healthy, and as always, get out and enjoy the football. Peace.
See ya.